Okay, so this is an amendment to a live stream that I did yesterday because I was nervous and I left out something really important. I started to wonder who might be watching and kind of softened or cushioned what I was saying to try to protect myself, and I feel like I left something really important out. So, yesterday I was talking about being canceled and why some people have unfriended me or will continue to unfriend me. And it's because I have a narrative or a story that they consider harmful, and that they don't want to be around. Now, my belief is that some of those stories that have changed for me are upgrades, that I have gone through growth, I have matured, I have gained the ability to see things with greater nuance and complexity. And so, therefore, the stories I have now that are different than the stories that I used to have when I was in the same communities and circles as some of the people who are currently unfriending me and canceling me, um, I believe that they are more aligned with reality, so that they are a way to hold the fullness of our experience, including the experience of, say, marginalized people, but in a different way. And so there are people who don't believe that, who don't think that that's possible. And that if you don't have the same story, the same narrative, the same belief, then that means it automatically invalidates the experiences of people who are contained within that particular story, that particular way of talking about the experience. So yesterday, I talked about an example where I was with a partner who believed that I had physically assaulted them when in reality I had said no to continued touch that I didn't want. And I was a very forceful no, stop. And my former partner interpreted that or internalized that as a physical assault. And I eventually came to realize that there was no benefit in trying to convince them that that hadn't happened and that they needed to run with that story for the time being, and that somebody else needed to meet that person in their story in order to help them work through their emotions and their experience of what happened within this narrative that wasn't true. What I didn't mention, though, yesterday is that there's a big difference between trying to convince somebody that their story is false and trying to convince them of a different story and confronting them with disagreement. So I don't want to try to take somebody's narrative away from them. So if I see that somebody needs this story, however untrue it may be, in order to hold their experience, in order to not invalidate all of the emotions and the part of themselves that experienced something, then I don't want to be the person who tries to force that story away from them and forces them to think of it a different way. Um, however well-intentioned that might be, I don't think that does any good, because we let go of our stories when we are ready to let go of them. However, I do think it is important to voice and confront one another with disagreement. So that means I can say, I think your story is wrong. I think your story is misaligned with reality. I think there is a better way to make sense of your experience, but then make it consensual. So I can offer that. I have a different story. It is different. I disagree with you. I do believe that you are wrong and that I am right, but I will not try to convince you. I will not try to coerce you or pressure you to think differently. Here's the offer. If you want to explore this disagreement, you're welcome to do that with me, but it has to be consensual. You have to consent to exploring the disagreement. But I won't hold back on saying that I disagree. So it's a subtle difference, but I think it's really important. It's very different to say, I disagree, and I continue to disagree, and no, I don't want you to change my mind. I'm not going to try to change yours either. Would you like to explore how we disagree and see if we can learn from one another? versus you're wrong and I'm going to try to make you right. I'm going to try to change your mind. So subtle difference, but I think it's very important because it's about consent. So that's an amendment or addendum to what I shared yesterday. And same with my former partner, I would absolutely say to them, no, that's not what happened. I don't believe that's what happened. Um, but if you need to see it that way, then go ahead. But I can't agree with you. I can't validate that. And I can't be in connection with you. And I can't explore that with you. You have to find someone else to do that with you because I am in disagreement. And I think that you're wrong and I am right. And we just have to go our separate ways and explore our narratives and see if we can both become more in alignment with reality with someone else. So, thanks for listening.